Hello, thank you for watching this video. My name is Jessica and I work at Just Detention International. Just Detention International, or JDI, is a health and human rights organization that seeks to end sexual abuse in all forms of detention. We work with corrections officials, rape crisis advocates, and policymakers to make detention facilities safer. In this video, we will discuss sexual abuse and trauma. Some of this may be difficult to hear. If you have concerns, please seek guidance from your supervisor before watching this training video. The Prison Rape Elimination Act, or PREA, requires facilities to connect with local victim advocacy organizations for the purpose of providing emotional support services to incarcerated victims. For some facilities, particularly those in rural areas, finding an organization that can provide these services can be a challenge. In situations when a rape crisis center is unavailable, there may be other organizations that could provide such services, such as a domestic violence or suicide prevention agency. Although every effort must be made to identify an outside organization to provide this role, PREA does allow facilities with no other options to offer victims of sexual abuse a qualified agency staff member to provide support during forensic exams and investigatory interviews. In this video, my goal is to help you understand the role of a qualified agency staff member in providing emotional support to incarcerated people in your facility who have been victimized when there is no community advocate available. Let's hear from Joe Booth, who was repeatedly sexually assaulted by his cellmate, talk about how important it was to him that two staff members, including a captain, took the time to listen and take him seriously. Of course, these two corrections officials were not serving as qualified staff support people at the time, but they are a great example of why the need for emotional support and acknowledgement in the aftermath of sexual abuse is so enormous.
One correctional officer listened to what I had to say, and he pulled me out of the cell. He decided that whatever was happening was enough for him to get involved in it. He left his normal activities to come and just stick an ear at the door and say, "What's going on?" And then as soon as I told him what was happening, he called the tower and locked down the unit.
If a rape crisis center is not available to provide victim advocate services, the agency shall make available to provide these services a qualified staff member from a community-based organization or a qualified agency staff member. PREA Standard 115.21 deals with evidence protocol and medical forensic exams. The purpose of the sexual assault forensic medical exam is to assess a victim's healthcare needs, coordinate treatment of any injuries, and collect evidence for potential use during case investigation and prosecution. These exams can only be performed by specially trained forensic nurse examiners and are highly invasive, sometimes taking hours to complete. Because forensic exams can often be re-traumatizing, victim advocates are called in to offer confidential, in-person emotional support. Calling on facility staff to fulfill this role as a qualified agency staff member should only be done when unique circumstances prevent a community-based organization from providing advocacy support. So what does a qualified staff support person do? Victim advocates are a key part of a multidisciplinary response to sexual abuse in detention. Every facility must have a documented, coordinated response plan that includes victim advocates. When a victim advocate or an appropriate person from a different community-based organization are not an option, the coordinated response plan should include the qualified staff support person. After a report of sexual abuse, a number of key people are called into action. Investigators, forensic nurse examiners, security and transportation staff, and others. Everyone in this multidisciplinary team has a unique role, whether that is to collect and preserve evidence, interviewing and documentation, or safely transporting incarcerated people to and from the exam site. The victim advocate's role is unique because it is the only one whose sole purpose is to support the victim during the process. Just like victim advocates, a staff support person's role during the forensic exams and investigatory interviews is to provide in-person emotional support. This could mean answering questions that someone might have about the exam or about the interview process, discussing trauma responses and coping skills, and just simply being a supportive presence. A staff support person could also be called to support a victim who has just made a report and has questions about next steps and what to expect. This means that a staff person is someone who is screened for appropriateness for this role, has additional training on how to provide accompaniment during medical forensic exams and investigatory interviews, someone that knows the steps facilities take following a report of sexual abuse and sexual harassment, and is knowledgeable on trauma and can bring a trauma-informed approach to this role. One major difference between advocates and a qualified agency staff member is confidentiality. Victim advocates can provide a level of confidentiality that, as staff who are mandated reporters, you're often unable to. However, the staff support person can still offer and support privacy for the victim by not sharing information unless absolutely required to do so under agency policy in order to make treatment, investigation, and other security and management decisions. Additionally, because all agency staff are mandated reporters, unlike a victim advocate, if a victim discloses abuse to a staff support person that occurred at the facility, they are required to report it. This is something that victims must be told. To be clear, we are referring to information the victim may share during their interaction with a staff support person, as the staff support person should never ask the victim for details about the assault. That is for investigators to do. Being a staff support person can feel at odds with one's regular duties, particularly if the perpetrator is another staff person or a volunteer or contractor. The role of the staff support person is not to determine the validity of a report, but to simply respond to victims with empathy and make sure they understand their rights. No one deserves to be sexually abused, and everyone deserves support in this situation. People in this role should have supervisory staff they can turn to for questions, such as the facility PREA compliance manager or a designated mental health staff. The supervisory staff should also provide guidance to staff support people on how their role fits into the facility's coordinated response plan. There may be many questions, such as how to properly document activities and evaluating the work of the staff support person, that should be added to facility policy or protocol. Having a roster of qualified staff support people can also be helpful to make sure someone is always available. The staff support person role is unique. It is best filled by those who already have a mental health or support services background, such as clinicians or chaplains. However, people without these backgrounds can still be good candidates for this role. Someone who understands the importance of maintaining boundaries, but is also approachable, who already tends to be someone incarcerated people go to for help, could be a good fit. It's also important to have an interest in and a commitment to supporting victims of sexual abuse and, of course, overall facility safety. Most victim advocates in the community receive about 40 to 60 hours of intensive training in addition to ongoing education requirements. While this level of training may not be required, a staff support person is encouraged to seek training and information from experts in the rape crisis field. Staff who are interested in becoming a support person can contact Just Detention International or JDI for more information about advocacy trainings. JDI has curricula available dedicated to sexual assault services, including a training curricula for advocates and volunteers new to working with incarcerated survivors. Refer to the PREA Resource Center for training modules and other technical assistance opportunities. Contact their state sexual assault coalition for training resources. Even if there is no local rape crisis center near your facility, every state has a sexual assault coalition that supports victim service providers and other professionals that may work with victims. These organizations may not be able to provide direct emotional support services to your facility, but may be able to offer other resources. If there is a local victim advocacy organization near your facility that doesn't have the capacity to provide services, they may still be able to offer training or other resources to make sure that staff support people have what they need. By enlisting staff support people when community advocates are not available, facilities can remain in compliance with the PREA standards and make sure that victims receive support. This makes facilities safer. As facility staff, you are already in a unique position to be able to change lives for the better. Providing emotional support, crisis intervention, information, and referrals for survivors of sexual abuse will strengthen your facility's reporting culture and help incarcerated people in your facility to heal. Thank you for your attention during this video. For further information and resources, please visit JDI at justdetention.org.